You're running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. Howard here with your pre-market prep. And then BigBeat will be in around 9:15 with Mr. Conroy, so they'll get you up to date on everything there also. Man, I don't know about you, but I'm sort of sick of having to keep the oil chart on my top of my desktop here, but that's sort of where we're at right now. I apologize there. But that's what we have to do. We do see WTI has been moving up over the morning. It has pulled back a little bit, but still elevated back up around 94.65 on WTI. Brent was well over 100 earlier. Now back down at 99.56, and tensions continue, or no change really in the Middle East. Israel did say they killed Iran's security chief, so we'll see if that is true. It's one of the central figures in the aggressive military response to the U.S. So if that's the case, maybe, in one of the talks I've seen really ratchet up this morning is the fact that who do you even talk to negotiate at this point? So, the war still headline above and beyond anything else. That is definitely what is moving the market the most. With that being said, let's take a quick look through the three indices. They are all showing green. We had a fairly decent day yesterday with all three indices up about a percentage point. The NASDAQ was up the most yesterday, up 1.12, buoyed very much by NVIDIA's GTC conference and CEO Jensen Huang's keynote speech. We'll get more into that, but it definitely buoyed the market. Anytime you hear we're going to sell $1 trillion in chips between now and 2027, it definitely perks people's ears up, right? All of a sudden that $4.5 trillion valuation doesn't seem so crazy. So that's what has the market moving in a positive direction. If we didn't have everything in the Middle East, imagine what we'd be seeing this morning there. S&P is up a little over a percentage point yesterday. Like I said, 1.02%, up another quarter of a percentage point here this morning. So still showing a little bit of a solid recovery. And the Dow, which was the laggard yesterday, only up 83 basis points. It's the leader so far this morning, up 33 basis points. So, again, even there, you've got a 1 point move to the upside between yesterday's trading and this morning's pre-market. But tweet analysis is absolutely going to be foremost in everyone's trading today, as anything can happen, and it can happen quickly. Keeping with our morning look through everything to see whether we're seeing risk on or risk off so far this morning. The indices are showing us a little bit of risk on. VIX also similarly showing us a same type of situation, back down at 2270. So volatility, people paying to hedge with the volatility index there, starting to pull back down, not quite towards that $18 neutral rate or so that we talk about between 16 and 18, fairly neutral. We're not there, but we are, well off of the highs of 36 that we saw last Monday, or even on Friday when we got back up into the 28.50 range. Rates continuing to slide slightly to the downside. The Fed our central bank, the Federal Reserve, is in their meetings today and tomorrow. We will get our favorite purple tie wearing gentleman, Mr. Jerome Powell, the chairman, will do his little fun dance with the media tomorrow afternoon around 2 o'clock. So all eyes are there. But again, if we look at Fed Watch, they're only pricing in, or traders are only pricing in, one less than two cuts between now and the end of the year. We'll see what we get there. The dollar has moved slightly down off of those highs also. It had broken above 100. Mr. Flanagan, as you know, our forex expert, said watch for anything above that $100.40 range as a blow off top. That has played out definitely. That's about where we got to before we started retracing. And gold has regained that $5,000 handle, but not very strong. Seems to be holding on by a thread. If we do lose the $5,000 handle, you're looking at 48.50 is probably your next level of support. Silver holding up a little bit better here, back above 80, almost at 81, but again there, any kind of downside, you're looking towards 73 or so. And we already went over gas and oil there. Both of them are up, but while they're up, that doesn't tell the whole story because they were much higher earlier or overnight. Bitcoin and Ethereum made really nice moves up yesterday. They have pulled back slightly today. Bitcoin a little bit more of a pullback than we've seen across Ethereum. But, again, we saw that nice move to the upside. We'll go over that a little bit, what sort of fueled that. We're going to take a look at the liquidation heat map, talk about how it played out yesterday, how it looks like it could play out today. I brought it up yesterday morning. I'm now seeing it get covered by the crypto media for sure. It won't be long till it's on the rest of the media. Is the flywheel effect that seems to be back in play with STRC, the convertible yield preferred stock instrument from MicroStrategy, or Strategy, excuse me. Sorry, Mr. Saylor. Which brought in, they purchased about 1.6 billion in Bitcoin over the last several days. That's what really moved the price up. Metaplanet similarly is raising about $250 million and buying Bitcoin. So those two are definitely big buyers. And again, like I said, we'll explain a little bit more the flywheel effect that's in place and talk about the way that can be a double-edged sword. Can hurt just as much on the way down as it's helping us on the way up. When we look at the overseas markets, they are mostly green now. So that's good to see. Kospi up about 1.6%. The Nikkei is slightly down, but the futures have been moving to the upside since their market closed, quite honestly. And then we see Hong Kong and European stock markets up slightly also here this morning. So risk on could be back in play again today. Again, NVIDIA's conference goes all week, so that is definitely a stimulus that can play out. What else do we want to go over there? Let's talk about the NVIDIA and what it's doing right now. So let's start there. This is the $4.5 trillion monster, right? $4.45 trillion market cap. They are in the middle of their GTC conference. It is moving the needle on NVIDIA for sure. Again, up almost 2% between yesterday's trading and today's trading. And the big part of yesterday, I watched it, a good fair amount of it. He went 2 hours strong. Jensen did, the CEO of NVIDIA. He had a flurry of announcements. And the biggest one out there is he expects the company to sell 1 trillion. Yes, trillion. This is not, an Austin Powers movie. 1 trillion worth of Blackwell and Rubin chips between 2025 through the end of 2027. Previously, they had forecast revenue of an opportunity of about 500 billion by the end of 2026. So again, he's now the new Elon. Elon used to spike the market, and Tesla, would run everything up with their news. It looks like now it's Jensen Huang's world. Importantly, NVIDIA executives clarified the estimate was only for Blackwell and Rubin processors. So that suggests that the overall data center revenue, which takes other products that they offer, that's not the only thing they sell, could be well ahead of Wall Street expectations for the same period. They unveiled a new hardware system aimed at inference. I mean, man, trying to listen to him talk, while it's amazing, I understand every third sentence or so. They're generating output for these new AI. They kept talking about the Grok LPX systems and the next generation of Vera Rubin servers with 256 chips. They called them language processing units, which are going to be developed. And this is where it hurt. A couple other people in the space got hurt yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about them. But they're going to be developed by Grok, not Grok as in Elon's AI product, but GROQ, which is a company NVIDIA has a huge investment or owns. NVIDIA said the new system can generate 700 million tokens, the basic unit of computing measurements per second. I want to bring this up. I'm going to talk more about this, but it is interesting. The AI industry is trying to distance itself from the crypto industry. And I get it for a variety of reasons. But, yesterday he spoke constantly about tokens. And to use his other word, the inference that I take from that has to do with something that I talk about a lot, which is micropayments, which is AI agents talking to each other, communicating and conducting commerce for us in the ways that we see talked about with smart cities and things that are coming. The way he's talking and breaking it down into those units, number one, it's starting to put a price tag on compute measurement. So if, we're starting to see where we're going to get computations that say for X amount of energy spent in a data center versus X amount of GPU processing speed you're doing, then this is the amount of tokens, similar to the way we use that in Bitcoin miners, to be honest with you right now, right? We look at the energy it costs to generate or to produce or mine a Bitcoin block. And with that being done, we figure out what the profitability of companies like Riot and Mara and those are. We're going to start to get to a day where we'll be able to talk about all of those areas the same way and put a price tag to this compute power. So I did think that was a huge takeaway for me out of there. And I'll be watching to see who first sort of captures that data, puts that data out there. And again, he talked about how that, they're moving to a point, 700 million tokens. That's about 350 times as fast as their previous Hopper generation was. And just huge, 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 huge. NVIDIA paid $20 billion to license that company Grok's technology, including compensation packages for many of the company's employees who joined NVIDIA. But it looks like it's paying off pretty quick, and it should help NVIDIA fend off some of the growing challenge from some of the custom chips. So Google could be at a little risk with their TPUs, that this is what this would be a competition to. AVGO Broadcom also, which offers cost-efficient inference, would be a little bit at risk here. And that whole inference, which is, AI models learning from each other, working with each other, and all of that. Now after these discussions, I've seen analysts talk about that it used to be, or it is right now, about 20 to 40% of AI workload is dedicated to this inference, and that should grow to about 60 to 80%. So they also talked about, the more extreme stuff there. I saw pictures of their new orbital satellite data centers with the solar panel wings. It looks amazing, and more amazingly, it's no longer just something from sci-fi movies. It's something that is in the production phase. So to me, that's just absolutely amazing. And NVIDIA with that, like I said, is up pretty nicely, has a decent amount of the chip sector up. Also had tech leading the way yesterday. We'll see if that can continue. Keeping focused on the MAG since we're there. Apple right now trading at about 253.26. So again, was up about 1 percentage point yesterday, up another 17 basis points here this morning. So trying to turn around, again, what had been a multi-day or multi-week downtrend for Amazon. Is it enough to get them back up or not? That's what we'll see. They didn't come all the way down to give us a double bottom we might have expected, but they've done a pretty good job here of finding a value slot, it looks like. Google is down a little bit this morning, and again, maybe part of that is in relation or because of the fact that NVIDIA is making it clear that Grok chip is going to compete with Google's own chip product TPUs, and actually that the folks that created it came over from Google's TPU unit was something else that I learned in yesterday's. Like I said, he had so many things there that were going on. Microsoft pretty flat here today, was up 1% yesterday. Amazon, nice bounce up yesterday, almost 2%. It continues its bounce back here from its recent struggles also. And Meta was the one that didn't get as far up. More CapEx spend there has been talked about, and I think that has them under a little bit of pressure. It helped Nibby-ish yesterday, the fact that they're going to spend about $27 billion there with them, has people again concerned about the spend that Meta is making. Tesla pretty flat here, which is kind of surprising because Tesla, does have some stuff going on with robotaxis and sort of in the news that usually gets their price moving. Really hasn't so far. Let's talk about some stocks that are moving so far today. Cruise lines back under pressure. CCL down here again. Oh, actually, now it's gone even, so maybe they are going to bounce back up. Let's see here. RCL2. So they are bouncing back up. You can see this morning they had taken a sharp retreat. But again, as oil prices cool off, we see the cruise lines continue to move up. We know that's been a big play by BigBeat lately. and one I believe he's still in. So good moves to the upside there on that. A continued bounce back, as he said. People are cruising. He was just on them. Younger folks were there. So that one, nice little move. Uber's another one to look at today. Again, takeaways from NVIDIA that weren't only about NVIDIA. They talked about how they are partnering together with self-driving vehicles and how their chips, again, where some of those $1 trillion in chips coming from. Uber's going to use them in their self-driving cars. Good morning, Zora. Hope you're having a good start to your day. Another company moving to the upside after strong earnings. ESLT here. Elbit Systems up about 6.9%. They are an Israeli-based defense contractor. They reported better than expected earnings and revenue for the fourth quarter. Don't think it's too much of a surprise there that that's the case. But to be honest with you, they had been beaten down a little bit last week. So this bounce back is pushing them back towards their 52-week and all-time high at 960, trading at 933. But they had dropped down into below 850 there last Wednesday. So it's been one that people weren't, buying in on. And I would say it probably points to what we'll see as some of the earnings come out of other defense contractors, out of drone makers. I got lost there as to what I was trying to say. Out of those, that will, would not surprise me at all. Some other names that are moving so far today. Airlines are getting a nice move up, being led by Delta, DAL. As you can see, nice little spike to the upside, up about 8% almost here. Company did raise or maintain their first quarter revenue estimates, even with what's going on. The stock had stumbled, as you can see here, since the war, and even before that. So, well, no, it's about right when the war started. So since then, it has been under so much pressure, dropping from 76 all the way down towards the 56 level. Now the recovery has it at 63.44. The carrier stuck to its earning guidance and even hiked its revenue outlook despite the surging fuel price problem that's facing it. As we said, the stock has tumbled since the Iran war started, but it could be a pivotal day for the sector. Soaring jet fuel prices, definitely the concern that has traders worried. But now they heard it from the horse's mouth, as the U.S.'s biggest carriers are set to provide updates at the JP Morgan Industrials Conference in Washington, D.C. going on. There's a couple of big conferences there that have news. That's a big one. We also have a crypto conference there that had Senator Booker speaking yesterday and some other folks. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you also there, Miss Zora. Delta shared its presentation ahead of time in a filing early Tuesday. Expects its first quarter guidance to be within its initial range, with earnings per share of 50 to 90 cents. Pretty wide gap, in my opinion. It now sees revenue climbing by a high single-digit percentage, up from that mid 5-6 point that I was talking about before. They cited demand momentum for the hike and added Delta was well positioned to navigate the current environment. I do know, because we had to look for some flights for the little one, and they're passing along the increase. That's all I saw. So, folks that gotta fly, and they're just getting more per seat, to make up for it. So we'll see how it's doing there. But it's got Delta up, like I said, 8% here now. Other ones that were moving up in sympathy of that, some of them might have also announced yet. I don't know if they have. or not, because you've got Southwest is there, UAL is there, American is there. They're all at that JP Morgan conference. So I expect they all will be speaking today. But you can see Southwest up about 2.5% today, and 6% overall. United closer to what Delta's up there. So, and again, nice move up by all four carriers. All four of them will present today. So we should see some volatility there. Keep your eyes on that segment for sure. Absolutely, Mr. Flanagan. How are you, my friend? Let's have a great St. Patrick's Day for sure. So it looks like airlines have, at least for the time being, subdued investor worry. So we'll see if that continues throughout the rest of the day, and what's going to happen there. Another one to keep an eye on today is Oklo. OKLO up. Wow. Almost 9.5%, 10% here. They do have their earnings today, and they also unveiled announced that they had secured their first license from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So that is great to see. There is a catch. The license applies to Atomic Alchemy, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Oklo. They acquired it in 2025. The license allows Atomic Alchemy to handle, process, and distribute isotopes, which can be extracted from spent nuclear fuel and applied to diagnosing and treating certain diseases. Crucially, the license allows Atomic Alchemy to begin initial commercial sales from its radiochemistry laboratory in Idaho, introducing a new revenue stream for the company, which still remains in their pre-revenue stages. It may not be that license that we were all waiting to see, which would have been for one of those advanced fast reactors, one of those SMRs that we're all hoping to see start to get through the department's reactor pilot program. We know that Oklo has partnered with Meta to build a nuclear campus in Southeast Ohio, which is one of the few binding partnerships that Oklo has so far. But again, up really nicely on that news. Companies that are getting hit a little bit. I did say that we had some, nice winners from the NVIDIA GTC yesterday. Ones that are not as fortunate, or at least were not as fortunate, their stock moving to the downside, is LITE, Luminithium Holdings, down about 3.37%. COHR, Coherent, also down about 3.78%. And the reason that they are down is because they are both in the cutting edge of optical components. It's been talked about, we need to replace copper because it's so expensive. There is a lack of copper supplies. Both of those companies produce chips that use an optical component as opposed to using copper. But yesterday in the conference, his comments, the CEO Jensen Huang's comments were that NVIDIA will continue to use copper cables for much of the data transfer between its AI chips, rather than fully transitioning to optical fiber. He did say they'll scale up both the copper and the co-packaged optics. They said they need a lot more capacity for copper. We need a lot more capacity for optics. And you got to keep an eye on GLW to the upside on that news too, because they are the biggest producer of fiber optics, but they're actually down about 2%. And that's partly because they zoomed up when he brought that out yesterday. So that's not too surprising also. So again, they moved the needle for some folks to the upside, some folks to the downside. They, when Jensen speaks, the crowd listens. Let's get into Bitcoin a little bit here, what's going on, and I'll sort of break down what I'm seeing and what's being covered out there. We made a really nice run yesterday. Bitcoin made it as high as 90, 96 and change. It was very much a short squeeze. A lot of it was done through perpetual futures. I'm going to pull those up in a second and sort of break down what happened yesterday and what we're looking at today. But it really was the perpetual future market that caused it. And then there's a secondary component you got to keep in mind that is at play that's getting a lot more discussions. Also, I did a video on it with my group yesterday. And then I saw today that it's getting a coverage out of Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, and some of the others. And that is the product that strategy has that is called STRC. It actually shows up because it is a stock. STRC is what they call a variable rate Series A perpetual stretch preferred stock. It acts as a perpetual bond, basically. And what you do is it is meant to be pegged somewhere within basically a couple of dollars or $1 between it and $100. So it'll get issued at $100. And what it's meant to do is trade right around that $100, and it uses an instrument, or it uses a monthly yield to help keep it at parity. So once a month, MicroStrategy comes out and says, next month, the dividend's going to come, and this is what we're looking at, and this is what the percentage is and so forth. And right now it's been right around 11.5%. Today was what it was at, or yesterday, I should say. And more importantly to it is it now holds, it's how they've raised, I should say, $49 billion. And it matters for a couple of reasons, because that $49 billion has been used to purchase Bitcoin. And it's one of the things that has been keeping up over the last 7 days or so. Bitcoin's price has been that strategy added 1.6 billion more in spot Bitcoin, because that's what they're buying, the actual Bitcoin. And when there's been low liquidity, not a ton of trading, they tend to try to buy around the weekends and stuff. It moves the needle on the spot price. And then that starts liquidations hitting and starts some volatility and activity in the perpetual futures, which is really what then took the price over yesterday and moved it well to the upside. So a couple of things to keep in mind. We are still in a bear market. This is helping, though. This is a different component we didn't have in 2022, quite honestly. So, everybody, is arguing on Twitter and, back and forth and trying to decide, are we still in the 4-year cycles? If we're not in the 4-year cycles, what's different? My view is we're in a 4-year cycle, but that 4-year cycle is not as exasperated as we used to see. We used to see drawdowns to 70. We saw the drawdown to 50%. I think that's going to be, I've said it, that for me, that's the localized bottom that we'll hopefully see here on Bitcoin. And now we're starting to move back up. And one of the reasons is there's a flywheel approach to this, and it's an interesting one. And I'll ask you, the viewers, what you think. What I looked at, and I did, in full disclosure, purchase some STRC yesterday. And the reason is I talked with my crypto crew and Penny Posse about it yesterday, was I've been keeping money, some money on the sidelines, right? And I've been keeping it in either Robinhood or in Coinbase to earn the extra 3 to 4% yield that they're offering, either through just direct US dollars on Robinhood or through the USDC stablecoin on Coinbase. And I said, I know I'm going to be holding this cash for at least another 30 days. I might as well bump that up and earn 11%. And at the same time that I do that, I am passively supporting and pushing the price of Bitcoin up, of which I am a long-term holder, right? So I'm helping my long-term Bitcoin position, because that money, Michael Saylor doesn't just leave it in SoFi or Coinbase like I said I do. He buys Bitcoin with it. He does it almost immediately. And he then, and that affects and moves the price, and really has been moving the price of Bitcoin over the last several days and the last few weeks. So you really have to, keep in mind, and I do, again, I ask you guys what you think. Come on, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Is STRC a game changer that changes the narrative from what we've dealt with? And can this flywheel break the 4-year cycle? And or lessen the impact of the 4-year cycle? It's a lessened time by almost half of the being in the bear market. And is the bear market not a 70% drawdown? So, we'll see. I will point out too, flywheels, as much as they help you to the upside, when they unwind, and in crypto, we've seen this over the years many times, when they unwind, they also unwind rather rapidly and have an approach, because this is a leverage. If it unwinds, the lever unwinds the same way, and they've got to sell their Bitcoin, and if they become a forced seller. But again, he's got 25 months. I was looking at it on his website. They've got 25 months of dividends already covered. So, they're staying ahead of that. They feel that in the next 2 years, even at the worst of the bear market, they'd be right. The 4-year market trend, we'd already be moving back up sometime in October and November of this year. So that's, right in line with their time frame for Bitcoin being back at a price where they could, they would garner profit from that. So interesting one to keep an eye on. It is a big part of what is moving the needle to the upside when it comes to the spot market. But outside of a few major players there, we're not seeing retail engagement, because the other great strong move has been in the ETF flows, right? We've seen ETF inflows continue to be strong. Just pulling up the data so I don't tell you a lie. Yesterday we saw $199 million more in inflows. And if I go back here to March 9th and just read off these numbers in a row, 167, 246. So that's what, 3, 4, about 410, 535. About 6, almost another $1 billion in inflows here since March 9th. And that was after seeing a huge inflow weeks in early March, the end of February. So it does seem like institutions are back buying Bitcoin. Retail just isn't coming with them yet. But this STRC could really change the scenario, because if it's going to continue to see $1 billion a week of inflows, that means MicroStrategy is going to buy $1 billion a week more of Bitcoin. And, again, they are out buying what the miners are mining every day. So them alone are pushing that needle to the upside. I do see our big man, BigBeat, off of his TV spot. So let's get him in here and ask him what he thinks about that. Let's play his intro, and here we go.
When markets move, Stephen E. Orr takes the chair. From the White House to Wall Street, he's spent decades at the intersection of policy, markets, and real capital. And he's seen firsthand how institutions use data behind closed doors. Now, as founder of Quasar Markets, his mission is to pull those signals into the open so everyone can see what really moves the markets. This is Stephen E. Orr, BigBeat on Wall Street. Let's filter the future live.
BigBeat, happy St. Patrick's Day to you and your lovely Irish wife. Hope you guys have a few Guinness today and maybe some corned beef or something there. How's your day going, my man?
Good. You know, look, I just left the NYSE TV a few minutes ago, and the question mark has been what the question mark has been. It's oil, 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 oil. No other question out there in the markets. Nothing else is moving the markets at all. But today there's also a second question that I was asked, and the question was around the Fed. Whether, what is Powell going to say tomorrow, and how's the meeting going to go? And obviously those two things are really moving the markets. Now, for me, as I said earlier, I am short oil. I continue to short oil, and every time oil pushes up, it's a sell-off, and that's happening over and over and over and over again. Even though we are seeing these headline-driven pops, I'm looking at it from the perspective of every time that we see a push up to the upside, it's a sell-off, and I've done it again, and I'm short again on the oil. I think it's seasonality. But the question mark around oil is not just oil and energy. It's Dow theory, right? Dow theory says if it moves, it's burning energy, and burning energy means other types of energy. And that one of those that I'm concerned about is natural gas. Natural gas could push higher, and not because of the weather. Look, it's 43 degrees right now in Florida. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about Russia and turning the spigot off to Europe. They don't have the same situation, and with their ESG laws over in Europe, they put themselves into a corner with all the situation. And now, the United States is an exporter of LNG, Cheniere Energy. If you want to look at a stock there, LNG, and if you want to look at companies that are moving around the planet, that's FedEx, FDX. So those two things right there are what my eye has been put on, and the volatility index, of which all three of those things is what we should be looking at. Now, Steve Flanagan talked about it yesterday, and I think the dollar is important, and he nailed it. Anything over 100, he's been shorting, and there it is. Look at that, 99.61. He's right. So we know that, and why? Because oil is priced in dollars, and so much so that the Iranian ministers, in this case now, I guess the only one left now, the foreign minister, the whole, I guess, cabinet's gone now. We've removed most of them militarily. We'll leave it at that. Is now saying that, hey, then nothing's safe, and that's what's keeping the oil up. But I think boots on the ground in the Kara Island off of Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. But we're living on tweets and we're living on daily headlines, and neither one of those things really tell me what the production of oil is really happening. Qatar and UAE, yeah, they cut their oil. They cut their oil from 3.8 million barrels a day and 1.8 million barrels a day. All right, they're producing 4 million barrels a day. That's not even putting a dent in the amount of oil. And the fourth thing you look at is it's very simple. It's refineries, and refineries that are getting hurt in the Middle East. That puts the United States and now at another lead, because we have lots of refineries. Nothing's been hurt. So United States is going to absolutely come out of this smelling like a rose, as my mom always says.
Yeah, you would think so. What I noticed though is, Friday, the rig count only went up one.
Right.
And a big part of that, as we know, is while we have those refineries, they're at max production. They've been at max production for a while.
Yeah.
So there. Now, the other part that was interesting is we're helping Iran. They pointed out that their oil's still coming through. So now estimates I saw on some of the,
and going where? It's going to China, right? I mean,
China and India, and and that, so their oil's still going out. So now they're saying it, but that's going to help because, as you mentioned, so now instead of losing 20% of the supply that comes through the straits, we're only losing 10%. So I do think there's a change there that we'll see. I'm going to leave you and Dave to discuss that. We'll bring him in here right now. How are you doing, sir? Welcome. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Great to see you all. Missed you all.
What is going on here, Dave? No green today? What's going on, my man?
You're not looking at my feet.
Oh, okay. Next to be underwear. My underwear is green. Okay. I love this, Dave. I was just on NYSE TV with Ashley Montanari, and we talked about it from the perspective of what's moving the markets today and has been moving the markets. And it seems that the narrative in the past has been, oh, well, earnings. And the thing in the past has been the Fed. And the thing in the past has been, what is guidance? What are the companies saying? And the guidance out the door. The question marks around any of that's been out the door now. It's all geopolitical. It's all headline driven and tweet driven, and what's going on in the oil market, and rightfully so. Yeah. But I was just on a cruise last week, and nobody cares.
Sure.
Kids are like, I don't care about, I don't even want to work. I just want to hang out at the house and play Xbox and video games, and I want to have a child and get married and not do anything. And
Right.
I don't care because I know AI is coming and humanoid robots are taking my jobs. So what is the actual narrative, Dave, that you think that we should put our heads around, other than, obviously oil and Fed, we know that's the big one. But what else should we actually be looking at, Dave, that's outside the box of all of those things today?
So outside of the oil and Fed, I think, I don't think you can dismiss the knock-on effects of oil. That is going to be the number one discussion that everyone's going to be talking about and are starting to talk about right now. It's not going to be people on a cruise ship. It's going to be anybody who drives for a living. It's going to be companies that ship anything. Whether it's by boat, by train, basically everything that you touch, every piece of plastic, everything that's on. So that is going to be the narrative, and we're already seeing it. Outside of that, I think until we start seeing an escalation to this, and our young people start coming home hurt or in body bags, I hope not, but until we start seeing that, people aren't feeling it. And it's not going to be the people who are on cruise ships. It's going to be everyone else that are already feeling pinches. They are already in debt. They're already having problems in their schools. They're already having issues with jobs. They are already feeling the crunch. And now it's like, oh my God, now we have inflation, and not just a little bit of inflation. It is coming as a tidal wave. And I cannot emphasize that enough. And that's certainly the big thing that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah,
as
and
to what this means.
It's one of the things I talked about over the last few months. Is I was concerned about the one big bad word, and that's stagflation, and it's happening. It's inflation is pushing up, job losses are coming in, and as the old adage on Wall Street is, if your neighbor loses the job, it's a recession. If you lose your job, it's depression.
Yeah.
And the president, I think, mismanaged this war. I think he didn't really put the idea that we're going to be in and going to be out, and I've stopped World War III. That was his philosophy there, and we really haven't seen that, right? I mean, we saw that with, yeah. Go ahead.
I think that is going to be the number one thing that people will start noticing immediately, is that we are in an escalation trap. And there is this belief that the Israeli government and the U.S. government can snap their fingers and we can be out of this, and we're like, okay, declare victory, and okay. George Bush tried the same thing.
The word out of my mouth. I was waiting for a mission accomplished, right? off of landing on an aircraft carrier. I think that was the first question that I was asked the Wall Street Journal this weekend, right? It was, everybody harkened back to that time where, he was landing on that and big sign of mission accomplished. But just because you say it doesn't mean it's happening, right?
The biggest mistake that's going on geopolitically is the Israeli government and the U.S. government are fighting a war of aggression. The Iranian government is fighting an economic war, and they are winning. Winning.
How do you say that they're winning, Dave? I mean, they seem to be more in poverty than they ever have been. Electrical blackouts everywhere, and people are rising up. I mean, even we saw that last night. So that doesn't seem like winning to me, unless I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Some of that is what we're seeing sort of fed to us, in the sense that I have never seen anything like the massive blackouts of information that we're seeing across the region, whether it's from the Gulf states or from Israel, and even the United States. We are being fed quite a line. Now, what I am seeing from reporters that are on the ground is that there's certainly defiance. Sure, we can say that there's economic problems in Iran, but they've been under sanctions for years. So it's like, okay, like, what else can we do to them economically?
Right.
Why they are winning. The U.S. bombed Karg Island a few days ago, and the president made a point of saying, not the oil infrastructure. Well, that means he's concerned about the oil infrastructure.
Venezuela. I mean, it's oil. Let's be honest here.
Last weekend, the administration didn't trot out anybody from state. They didn't trot out anybody from the Defense Department. On every single show, it was all economic. It was energy and treasury. And then more than one energy analyst have said that the markets look like they're being influenced. You know, Pierre Arden, Rory Johnston, Anas, they're like, man, these numbers aren't making a lot of sense. There is one source for 20% of the global oil supply, and it is on fire. We broke the global energy supply, affecting billions of people, and apparently didn't ask anybody. So, like, how's that working out?
Yeah, I mean, Steve Flanagan's posted here. He said, 30,000 protesters in Iran have been killed in the last few months. Doesn't seem like that's winning to him.
Sure, and the Iranians have, well, frankly, we don't have the information, and I'm not going to defend like a terrible regime, but they've done this year after year after year. There's been protests year after year after year, and there are plenty of videos from reporters on the ground, and we're talking like ABC reporters, and we're talking about people that have no reason, that are showing defiance, because look what would happen if somebody attacked the United States. I don't care what you think about the left or the right in the United States. If somebody attacked the United States, there of course would be a rally around the flag. It happened. It happens every single time. So we like, don't tell me that there's a rise up of people. Nonsense. There's 92 million people in that country.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That 30,000 protesters being killed is a lot. I mean, that's a small town, right? And they're the ones that have been waiting in the wings, and it's the reason that the president actually turned his eye towards Iran is because we were seeing that protesters were being killed, and he said, "I'm coming to help out." I mean, he did say that.
So I've heard every reason, right? Like, I've heard it's for oil. I heard it's regime change. I heard it's we have to, the reason change every day. So, if we really think it's on humanitarian bounds, why aren't we in every country that has issues with humanitarian crisis? So I will not take that as a reason by this administration, because they have not shown that they have If you look at a place like Sudan, I mean, they have literally had 100,000 people die, and we just are being like, oh, maybe we should do something about that.
Maybe we should go in there. Yeah, I totally understand on that one. And it's about oil. I mean, I think that's the narrative that we need to understand. I mean, if we don't think it's not about oil, then I think we're just kidding ourselves. But at the same time, we can do good while doing better, right? We could be doing some humanitarian issues. I mean, I was in the southern border of Egypt, on the border of North Sudan, and I can tell you that the world's a different place over there.
Absolutely.
And everywhere I went, I was escorted by Uzis and AK-47s, Russian weapons. So I do understand the humanitarian side. And my goodness, we renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War. So it was interesting. I was listening to It's Complicated, a podcast on Apple. I recommend it. It's done by a Yale professor and former FBI agent who keeps their eye on the ground. And it's two, and they're very, very good. And one of them's a legal defense attorneys talking about this very situation, right? Did we have the right to go in? Yes, because there are issues there. And are we the police of the world? Yes. Should we be? That's a question mark, not for today. But how is it affecting the markets? And you can see here now I have WTI now up and running. And this morning we saw, no more news about, a burning cargo freighter. And we saw more news. But right now there is no regime in Iran. If we pull back the curtain a little bit on the team there, almost everyone's is gone except the foreign minister. They've replaced him with the son of the Khomeini's son, who he did not even like himself, and was concerned about him running the country. Is already either mortally wounded, we think, and the new minister of war, I guess for them, is now gone too as well. So we have pretty much ruined their regime. So now when do we go in and boots in the ground? So I don't think that happens. I don't think we have boots in the ground, because I think it's about as unpopular as it gets.
No, you can't put troops on the ground, but we have 5,000 Marines heading there. We have 50,000 in theater. I'm not really hearing the question is that the Israelis have hundreds of thousands of people who are right there, and they are pushing into southern Lebanon. So
I agree with that. You know, it's interesting. Steve Langan talked about that yesterday. They're under the guise of this war. Bibi's taking advantage of us. In my eyes, I mean, Hezbollah is not a good organization. We understand that, but I mean, let's be honest. But he's taking advantage of us as a country and our military. So I thought the war was in Iran, not in Lebanon, and now Beirut. I mean, how much more can you bomb in Beirut? I mean,
right.
Beirut's been bombed to hell for the last 50 years.
That's one of the other countries, you know, besides the other six that we've broken over the last 6 years, ushering in like a complete misery, millions dead through there. So really, here's my question. 13 Americans are dead, 200 plus are wounded, and the question is why? You know, the president has twice said, and the Secretary of State have both said that it's because of Israel. And again, the question is why? It's been nukes, it's been regime change, it's been protester deaths, it's been the ability to defend themselves, quote unquote, they're bad. And I'm still at just why, you know, like, and that's the thing that you can't sell to the American people. And when you can't actually pull back from this, meaning that the Iranians are fully in control over the escalation of this. And the only way that you can shut this down is putting in many, many troops and putting them on every single corridor. There has never been any kind of regime change or anything in the history of humanity that has been solved by air power alone. So how is it different this time?
I'm going to push back because my history side of me comes out, and I will say that the Israeli 10-day war was pretty good against Egypt. I would say that the militarily the war was pretty much won by bombarding them. I understand what you're saying by the air superiority, but you know, with air superiority, they can't. We have eyes in the sky. But you're right. From a couple weeks ago, you're talking about it, and it really stuck in my mind about how they can produce a $20,000 drone, and we have to produce a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar planes and billion-dollar aircraft carriers, and you know, against drones that they have a ton of drones. I understand that Ukraine is sending in these drone protection. We have Iron Dome, as we all know. It's interesting. I'm having to explain Iron Dome over the last 10 years to people, you know, and I was part of all that. But you know, yeah, let's get to it. Dow theory says if it moves, it burns energy, and energy is what we're talking about all morning long. And here's Cheniere Energy. It's one that I like. The reason being is not just oil, but also from the situation of Russia too as well. I'm going to pull up a daily chart of LNG here. Hopefully we can see that. And I may have pulled the screen up a little bit here, Cheniere. I might have lost the. There we go.
I got some questions on oil.
Yeah, go ahead. Bring it on while I get this chart in for us.
Yeah, so you know, WTI, West Texas. Well, so oil's a global commodity. It doesn't matter if we're like the biggest, you know, producer. It means we're going to be making the most money. So if you're, you know, investing in ConocoPhillips or, you know, or if you have a strip joint in Houston or Dallas, you're going to make bank, right? So the thing I'm curious about, and I don't really quite understand, is that you know, West Texas is a future, right? But the actual like barrels are priced much, much higher, whether it's in Dubai or Oman. You know, like those are like 123 and 150 plus. Those are it's the other one's notional. It's like vibes, and the other one's like, well, this is what we're actually paying for these, and they seem to go together. I mean, this is the largest oil shock that's ever been recorded, and every oil shock has resulted in recession. So I'm still like, how are we not like, I mean, the math isn't mathing for me.
Right. I understand what you're saying. The markets are out open. We are seeing a little bit of a slip here with the oil pricing higher here. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm actually looking to buy FedEx down here on this dip here. I do like this move on FedEx. Gosh, it's up $3 now. but I do like FedEx here on this move here. Qs are dropping slightly here. SCO, as we know, tick now up 540, so I'm not too concerned. Markets seem to be pushing this off a little bit. Yeah, I'm not too concerned. FedEx, FDX now. FedEx now up about $3 here. Yeah. Why am I liking FedEx? Here, I'll pull the daily chart up here. You can see where that slippage happened and the turn here. I think we talked about this from a daily perspective. Look at that. And we are seeing a turn here now on the MACD as well on the daily chart. I pull up an hour chart a little tighter here. You can see where that turn has actually happened here. And I do like this move here on FedEx. Be careful there. The spread is very wide on FedEx, but I do like this move here on FedEx. Cheniere Energy, LNG, the other one that I like to talk about this morning, up about 0.13%. Now, we will see, and I think that we will see a question mark around Russia and whether Russia does. 844 now on SCO as WTI now 94.77. The reason being WTI, quite frankly, is because we pump it. It's easy to pump. We have all that. We already have it, right? It's just a number and a barrel comes right up out of the ground. We already have those wells being drilled. Howard brought up this morning about the rig count. Our rig count was up by 1 on Thursday, so last Thursday. So meaning that we're not really drilling anymore. We don't need to drill. This drill baby drill narrative is nonsense because we don't need it. We have so much oil. We literally, companies just go in and just put a nice bow on it, a number on it, and we look at it later down the road, which is happening now, right? And all we need to do is open that well up, put the straw back in it, and we're good to go. Yeah, we're already hearing other Emery Horton also says the same thing. Futures on WTI showing $75 now in December. I agree with that. I think we're way over the skis here now on WTI, and I do like the move here.
So what about knock-on effects like, diesel? That's big in the United States. That's up very sharply. Jet fuel is up sharply. Trips, fertilizer. I didn't realize this was a thing. Up 30%. I mean, we're in the middle of planting season right now. So
that it's so funny that people start talking about this fertilizer coming because it's not coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. Potassium is an issue, right? With that. Okay, I can explain this. So we are seeing the Qs pushing higher here now, and oil is continually selling off here again, and WTI now. I'm sorry, Bitcoin now at 74,000 once again. For those of you who don't know, I did sell some Bitcoin at 73,350. That was what I bought in 68,000. So I did take my profit there. I still long my original positions. I will never sell my original positions in Bitcoin, as everybody knows. This is not my thing. Dollar continued to slip here, but for me, let's look at FedEx here real quickly before FedEx only up 291 now. Again, here, so let's keep our eye. And 355.43 is where I am long on FedEx, but I will continue to stay long here on FedEx. But it is something that I am clearly looking at for longer term place here. Be careful here. NVIDIA is being talked about by Jim Cramer on CNBC right now, so do be careful there as well. Oh, did I lose you, Dave? Did I lose you there on your microphone? All right, and we'll keep going here. Gold here, 5,024. If the world is falling apart, why are we not seeing gold just go through the roof here, Dave?
Well, this is the issue that I'm having. It's like the math and mathing and the physics of this. It's like being able to bring all this stuff back online when it's on fire. This is infrastructure. The ability of Russia and Saudi Arabia to make up 20%. I don't know, man. I mean, like, people aren't saying that. We do seem very with every single oil shock causing a recession, going back forever. Goldman already had it at 20%, and now they're upping it, and they're as conservative as they get. I don't know why, the markets don't seem to be, they seem to be just like blowing this off as like no big deal. And I've never seen this,
Well, I think a lot of the problem has to be is that the sheer amount of money on the sideline, that we've got almost $8.5 trillion in money markets and cash on the sidelines from retail and institutions. And they're like, look, oh, another headline on oil. Oh, another headline in the Middle East. Oh, we've been doing that for 40,000 years. I mean, it's like, okay, why are we worried about this? And I like that part of it, right? For me, look, the Qs are still pushing, Dow's pushing up here, Nasdaq's pushing, S&P is pushing. I just think that the narrative here is changing, that the Fed is not going to raise or lower rates. And their narrative was about 2%. And I think their narrative was about whether or not we're going to, cut rates, and is Kevin Warsh going to get approved? And what about job losses are still picking up? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're just like, okay, I'm just going to buy the stock market because I'm buying up the future. And the future, I'm not seeing that when it comes to, like I said earlier, guidance is a question mark. And that guidance, I'm not seeing the guidance anymore. That narrative is out the door right now. WTI still falling down. So to me, I'm not too concerned about this.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I mean, like, you're right. I'm not seeing in the markets. I'm not seeing, I am not a doom and gloomer. I am not a perma bear. There aren't anything in me on that, but this is the fundamental thing on the planet on fire. And so there's no way that, declaring victory in a couple of weeks is going to solve this. This stuff is offline.
I think a lot of people are discounting the president, whatever the president says. I think people are just going, whatever. I mean, it's like, I don't even, I watched the White House. I watched him the other day in the White House, and I looked at the number of live people that are watching, and it was like 20,000. I mean, it was like nobody was watching anymore. Nobody cares anymore. They've turned. And I've said this. I think he's now a lame duck president.
Oh, 100%. There is no money that's going to go into the Republicans holding Congress, if not the Senate. Not one. I mean, I will put money on that. I was saying, hey, it's too early. But
you were saying that 2 weeks ago, it's too early, and I was saying that I think that the Republicans are going to lose both the Senate and the House.
Yep. And it was too early. I wanted to wait until the primaries actually, kicked off in real in June, then be like, okay, now I know what's going to happen.
But we don't care politically. We care about how it makes us money, right? How does it affect the markets? And I think we're seeing that, right? And look, the markets love nothing more than certainty. And if you have a divided government that can't get anything done, then we know what the rules are. So that's when people like that. People love that, a divided government. They don't like it when one party has everything. It's too much power. And you see what happens when too much power happens. You get into wars. So, and I've seen it in my own eyes when you have, the liberal side of things gets too liberal and it gets too conservative and it gets too crazy and the fringes get involved, and then you have the mod squad, and then you have like the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world coming flying out of the woodwork.
So I agree with you in concept. No, like that's absolutely right. People are like, they don't want government, but what it presupposes is that people have any trust in any institution, and it also presupposes that that something gets done. We have seen gridlock for over a decade, even longer. Congress will not do its job. And we are not getting legislation through. It's at all-time lows. Congress and all government and other institutions, whether it's bureaucratic or academic or any institution, is at record lows. When you get enough people who believe they are in a representative democracy, then this is tough. James we're in bad places.
Yeah, Dave, James asked the question here, but isn't that an issue? We've been desensitized. What happens if this has true real-world impact? Market still feels like it's ignoring quite a bit of risk here. And James is right. I mean, and that's what we're talking about. And we remember politically, we have to talk about politics here because we have to understand how it affects the markets, right? We're not, I don't care about it, who the president is. I do care, but I don't care in regards to making money. I need to understand how to invest, right? If it's a conservatives that are in, oil's probably going to go up, right? Yeah, well, we're seeing that, right? So boil it down to how does it make us money, and the desensitization of every tweet and this blustering from the president. We didn't see it in the last president and see what happened. They thought he was going to bed every night at 7 p.m. Right, and so I understand. And then there goes SCO back up again, and oil still selling off here. So yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we think here is happening.
So here, look again. I think you'll hear the doom and gloomers, like me saying, "Hey, I'm not a permanent doom and gloomer. I'm not a permanent bear." And I'm like, "Holy smokes! I can think of a million ways that this can go worse." And I can't think of any way that this is going to go better. It's very much hopium. So this is a time that if you want to make money, it's really being defensive. You don't have to you don't have to believe me, but you do need to take some positive steps in a way where you're not going to lose your shirt. So that's where we are right now, because we do not know, and it's not heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and I mean, for defensively, for me, it's FedEx. I mean, that's why I'm moving into this, because I think that as oil comes down, as gas prices, and for those of you who don't know the 3-2-1, it takes 3 barrels of oil to make 2 barrels of gasoline and 1 barrel of distillate. So remember that you got to learn the 3-2-1 rule in oil. But for me, I'm looking at this from a perspective of the future and what we're seeing for the summer, and I'm looking at the forward curve on oil, and we're seeing backwardation, which means that other traders, bigger traders, big money institutions are saying that this is not going to last either, Dave.
Okay, but if I'm looking at it politically, there's no off ramp. There at least there's not one that anybody's going to accept. And the one person, the one group that is in control is finding an economic fight. So I don't see an off ramp, and I am dying for somebody to put me in my place. I am dying for somebody to tell me I'm wrong. There isn't one.
Okay, so what do you need to see then, Dave? What do you need to see in order to make you feel better about the world?
So there's going to be things that nobody's right now is going to sign up for. We need to see a ceasefire that is enforceable. We need there's going to be demand to pull out of Lebanon. There's going to be a demand for war damages, a complete sanctions relief.
Oh, you think there'll be war damages? I don't think there'll be war damages.
Well, there will be a demand to pay for the war damages.
A demand, okay, but that won't figure into your thesis of the world calming down.
Well, to actually see things calming down, not only is there have to be a ceasefire, there has to be a real non-aggression pact with sanctions relief, and that's been a non-starter for Israel.
I agree with that. That's a good point.
Until there is, because this is existential. Every time that we've actually been at the negotiating table, we've killed or we've sucker punched the negotiators. So they're not going to trust the United States. You need to see a third country come in, and that's going to be Russia, or that's going to be India, maybe China. You need a third party that comes in and says, okay, knock it off, guys, and it has to be enforceable. Until I see that, there's no chance. They're in an existential fight, and they have been burned twice in the last year. So if you're in an existential fight, you need somebody to referee this and say, hey, this time is different. We're going to bring some peace.
So who referees it, Dave? I mean, is the Hague going to referee it? NATO has been weakened. I find it ironic that the president of the United States has berated NATO, pulled back on finances, and then this week asked for help
sanctioned and tariffed them. I mean, would you help?
And then tariffed them, yes. And then now
demanded Greenland.
And then now we haven't even talked about Greenland. I mean, forever. It's interesting. It's like they're trying to find a narrative to win in November, and they're losing in every narrative. Literally losing in every narrative. I don't think there's a narrative that I can find that the president's winning it. Not even the big beautiful bill or whatever that was. It's already a failure now. And that's not my words. Those were Republican words, right? So I'm wondering now what the narrative. And this is why I think that oil will just fall, because I think the narrative is going to change. They're looking for another narrative, and I don't know what the narrative is for them. But when they try to find that, oh well, it's jobs. Well, they can't say they're winning in jobs because job losses are expanding fast. They can't say that they're winning in the economy because, I mean, people, we already know what the economy is doing. And we all know that the K economy, the stock market is not the economy. Right. And he continues to put his name on the stock market and says that we're, don't worry, the market will be double. And since he said that, the market has been down 20%, right? Or 14.8%, right? So, because it's up a little bit today. So, I'm looking at this market and going, what is the narrative and what is it in the future? That's what I'm worried about. That's why I think that there is worried to be worried in.
Let's talk about like oil actually coming down, because like there are 6 refineries that are offline right now, and those things don't come back up, and the infrastructure needs to be repaired. So if you're saying we are in a supply shock, that is the difference. If you're saying that if anybody's going to say oil's coming down, that means there's destruction of the demand, and that we're not in a good place. So yeah, well, I think oil might come down.
I think there is destruction of demand. I think we are in a weak demand period. That's why I'm shorting oil too as well. I mean, there is a demand that has come down, and we are, as a country, we are addicted to Amazon. We are addicted to our products being shipped to us. UPS, another one. And look at this, FedEx already up a little bit, and that's why I think that I'm not too concerned about this. I'm not. I don't know. I just feel like it's the mouse that roared right now is getting slapped in some cheese, and I think Iran's gonna be a question mark. But I think
silver dollar. I'm a silver dollar bet. How about this?
Dave.
I will put the silver dollar bet on this one.
Here's what I think, Dave.
Yeah,
I think the narrative turns to Cuba.
Oh, it already has. I live in South Florida.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, I was part of that deal with the first time, and I am all about bringing Cuba online to the United States, and at this time, here comes my State Department side of me. I honestly want Cuba to be a 51st state. I think that's too close for Russia to be. I was in Havana a few years back when it was open during the Obama administration, and I can tell you that. The Russian embassy is a very interesting place. When you go on the road and you go by, you see it, right? It's right there. And it's like, whoa, what's good? They have a massive influence here. And that's too close for me, right? In a country that and the president said the reason that he went into Iran in the first place, it was not because of protesters. He said, and it's quoted several times, that they were very close to, if they had a nuclear bomb, they would use it, and that he stopped World War III. Do I believe that? No. But do I think that that was a narrative behind it? Yes. And I if that's a narrative, then he can put that narrative behind, because we did that. If you think about it in the 60s with Kennedy and Khrushchev talking about, get those damn weapons out of my backyard kind of feel, they're probably still sitting there. Not in a way that nuclear silos are jammed full of ICBMs, but that it's a stopping off point if Russia wanted to come across the big blue ocean, in this case, gray ocean, right? That's why we paint them gray. But let's talk about that. If the narrative turns to Cuba, does that push the market up?
Well, I mean, you'd first have to swallow the premise that, that we've somehow solved the nuclear question in Iran. I mean, what we've found out is that if you don't have nuclear weapons, then you're screwed. I mean, we already see Poland. I just had dinner with friends of mine from Finland, and they're like, oh no, we're changing things. France is upping. So now you have up to 60 countries that have nuclear power plants that can start enriching uranium. And frankly, I want a nuclear weapon. You
made a very good point. Poland, as of this week,
Japan is talking about changing their constitution.
It's crazy, isn't it? But Poland is now a top 20 country based on GDP, based on the amount of money they have. Poland,
Poland.
You don't think that Russia? You don't think that Vladimir Putin is sitting on the sideline going, a top 20 country And you're on my board.
The Russians are making bank at these levels. I mean, that would actually make me feel the best. If Russian actually came in and mediated this thing in the Middle East, we could actually end the Ukraine war too. Can you imagine both of these things solving themselves in the same time? Then we'll have great economic boon from that. That would be my best case
scenario. I got the answer out of you. Okay, real quickly, I want to looking here at MongoDB here. For those of you who don't know, I did buy that dip on MongoDB. I'm no longer in it as a position, but I did see that. We talked about that a few weeks ago. And if you're holding it for longer term, that has made a really nice turn, right around 230 to now to roughly almost 280 now a share. So MongoDB, I know because that is pure AI. That is how AI actually works in the back end, the picks and the X and the shovels for AI. So I do like that. That is a nice move here on MongoDB over the last few weeks. All right, Qs are still pumping here. Look, the volume is dried up. We're seeing dollar pushing higher a little bit, 99.60 here, bounced off a little bit, but I'm not too concerned. I will say this much: I am concerned about and I'll tell you this clearly, is the 10-year, with the government buying the most of the bonds back in history, right? So that is a big question mark around. If you want to talk about what does the government feel about the country buying back their bonds, that is a very big issue to me. SEO dropping a little bit as oil pushing up a little bit, 94.44 a barrel, but the future is still saying $75 a barrel by December. That's what they call backwardation, by the way. If you don't know, that's backwardation. Yeah. All right. Yeah, of course. So most definitely, folks, if you don't know, please give our boy Dave Conley, who is happy to be here, and I love it for him. And there's all the links. We will put that there for you.
Yeah, I would like to thank everybody on this stream that is coming over and both giving us some love on social, but also listening to the show with my co-host Jeremy Alexander Newsom. And I think you and I will have a quick chat here, Stephen. I believe you mentioned you might want another show on this fine network of yours.
I'm happy to do that. Yes, let's do that. I love it. I have always said that the point here is about building an ecosystem. It's about all the friends. And we've seen that throughout history of fintech, that everybody's doing their own thing. And, we got to build our own company. And I don't believe that. I believe that, together we're stronger. And that's been my thesis all along here. For those of you who don't know, I totally believe that. And partnering with Bloomberg and Google and Meta and Facebook and all the companies that we're out there we're partnering with. And of course, Jeremy Newsom has been a friend of mine for, God, I can't even tell you how long at this point. And just a force of nature himself, as well as yourself, Dave. That's what it's all about, right? And I've said this, and for those of you who don't know, a little secret coming out. I'm on Damon John's show, Next Level CEO. It's done, by the way. We got some drafts to make, and we'll fix that for everybody. But coming out soon. But one of the things that I said in that show is that we always have to remember where we came from and where we're going, because as we make that turn, that hockey stick of going up and moving up, is that we've got to come together and understand how we got to where we are, because we're all different people. And whether we use AI or whether we use computers or however we use in technology, we're still freaking human beings, Dave.
Yes.
We all have to put food in our mouths, and we all have to we put our pants on the same way. I trust me, we all put our pants on the same way. And that to me is where I get my information, right? I think about that. So when I talk about my quote unquote channel checks, I go to the stores and I go, okay, what pants are they buying? Right? Yeah. What are they thinking about? What is the economy thinking about? And over last week I was on the cruise, and I mentioned this with Howard, that I was in a bunch of kids in the college age, and they all said the same thing. They don't want to work. They want to, get married, and they don't, but they're nervous because of AI and humanoid robots and things that are taking over their job. So they don't care. It's at this point where they're just like, wow, what do I, if I'm losing my job or I can't find a job, I'm trying to get a job in accounting, that's out the door. I'm trying to get a job in HR, that's out the door. I'm trying to get a lawyer, well, that's going to be out the door. I'm going to be a doctor. Oh, well, there's the humanoid robots already doing that for the DaVita, right? So what is it that they should be looking at too as well?
Thanks for the setup. I don't think you even know this, but our current series that we just kicked off is about jobs in America and the social contract and where this is going and how people need to be thinking about this. And we just kicked it off. So please, folks, if you want to talk about where we are going with jobs, what the government can do, where you can, like what you need to do for yourself. If you have a job or if you know anybody who has a job, come and listen to us, because that's exactly what we're talking to. We're talking to people who are experiencing this at all levels. We're talking to academics. We're talking to politicians. So this is on right now.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you guys have a chance, I love podcasts when I'm out walking or whatever, and I'm doing my thing. And I'm going to give you right now the Apple link to Solving America's Problems right there. You just click that link there. You'll be able to do it there. And I'll get you the link from the other ones too as well. Spotify. I think those are the two main ones that everybody pretty much uses.
So we have a link to that I sent you, which is link2/SAP pod, and that will take you to wherever you'd like to go.
Yeah, I got that. I'll pull that up for everybody too as well. Let's pull that.
So yeah, that's our current series.
And for those of you who are looking to do all the link twos, there is the link to the link twos. That gets you to everywhere. It's just click on that link and you'll see all the. But and I'm in a few of those. I believe I'm the only person you've actually brought back on your show. Is that right, Dave? I love it. We talked about two things that I do talk about, and that was guns.
Yep.
And I think people think that I'm a left wing, winger, or you like guns, you're a right winger. I think people should not be defined by what they like or don't like. I don't like this definitive situations, right? Because we all grew up different ways. And one show that I'm watching right now, and that's and it's on, and if you get a chance on Hulu right now, Sterling K. Brown talks about it, right? As if the world were to fall apart, right? And how do we get back to it? It's called Paradise, right? And it's about the destruction of the world, and now they're going to come back and they got to figure out and dystopian world, right? I understand, but how do you fit in that dystopian world? That's how I look at myself. Will I be okay in the future if the world falls apart? Can I fish? Can I hunt? Do I need gold? I'm not a prepper. I don't care about that stuff. I don't think about that in that aspect, but there are people who do, right? And they spend money and they're part of the economy and they're part of how we live. And it's interesting when we look at it from that perspective, if the world were to fall apart, why are we doing that? Because we literally are on the brink of the world could fall apart to some people right now that feel that way. They feel that right now. They feel like they've lost their job, or that the economy is not great, or that, oh my God, look at Russia, look at Ukraine, look at China, look at Japan, obviously Iran, Strait of Hormuz is burning, hurricanes, volcanoes, and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, right? And that's what's changing, I think, about the psyche of America right now, that we've gone from this lackadaisical Joe Biden era to now chaos is reigning everywhere.
And I think that's the one thing that we need to keep on reminding ourselves, is that we have no locus of control over all of these things until Jeremy's in office, until we actually have these things that we can actually say, this is what's going to change. The one thing you do have a change is not being perpetually online, not letting you're pouring poison all over your engine. So you don't need to be online and monitoring everything, but you do need to have strong relationships, and you're gonna live longer and you will be happier. So if you don't know your neighbors, go find your neighbors. Make sure you hug your kids. Make sure you're calling your friends. These are the things that get us through, and those are the things that will have the biggest benefit. It's not going to be watching the news, because that's not where you're going to find anything.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Dave. I mean, I got investors in the company here that are neighbors, right? And that's the kind of neighbors that you want. And look, I just think that right now I feel like that there's just so many people that with so many questions, and they're now turning to AI for answers. I mean, what world are we living in where the psychologist is now becoming ChatGPT? That's how bad the world is. Now, I'm glad that they're getting some help, whether that's ChatGPT or whatever. but we talked about this on our first show with you is mental health, right? Mental health is a big issue here to me, and it doesn't add to it when you're talking about wars and rumors of wars and question marks around their job and a question marks around the economy. Yet they don't care, so they're buying up the market. So I think that there's this weird malaise in the market that we just can't put our finger on, and I think that's why okay, if I can't win, I might as well just join them kind of feel.
Yeah, there's going to be a bit of a nihilism, and I don't recommend that for anyone. And being like,
real quickly, Dave, pending home sales just came in here. Numbers now coming in at up 1.8%. Forecast was down 0.6%. So pending home sales, homes are selling here, Dave.
Wow. Hey, well, that's good news. It's better than stalls in the market. I know if they have any exposure here in the Miami, South Florida area, it is definitely a buyer's market, particularly in the condo space.
Total buyer's market here. All right, Dave, I can't wait to see you back here on Thursdays, continue this discussion. And for those of you who plays our markets, thanks for watching. Great, good numbers today. Yeah, lower rates, Steve. I like that. As we watch 10-year now slipping here. 4.202. I don't think it's enough for Howard to get his numbers again, but I'm hoping to see that. Dave, I'll see you back here on Thursday. Got any last comments for everybody?
No, I'm looking forward to it. Stay offline, but pay attention.
Stay offline, but stay on Quasar Markets, folks. Okay, we'll see you all back here tomorrow. We'll see you here with Steve Flanagan and Howard Greenberg.